So there are two pieces of surprising news here. First, federal prosecutors have asked Judge Cohen, who's overseeing the federal classified documents case in Florida, to delay that trial until December 11, 2023. And the second bit of surprising news, Trump's defense team actually opposes the move. So let's go over both. First off, why is Jack Smith seeking to delay the trial until December? Because, as the DOJ wrote to Judge Cohen, the case does involve classified material and will necessitate defense counsel obtaining the requisite security clearances. And given the fact that securing those clearances, which will be needed to actually review the evidence against their client, Donald Trump, could take up to 2 months to get approved, the DOJ is simply acknowledging that an August trial date is unrealistic. Smith also wrote, the inclusion of additional time for defense counsel to review and digest the discovery, to make their own decisions about any production to the government, and for the government to review the same is reasonable and appropriate. In other words, Smith is just being realistic about how much time things will take, given the fact that Trump's theft of classified documents means that his own lawyers will have to jump through hoops to even be able to gain access to what he stole. If anything, the delay we're forced to endure now is a testament to the seriousness of the crimes that Donald Trump himself committed. But I mentioned at the top that Donald Trump's defense team actually opposed the move, which seems bizarre because their whole goal is to delay this trial as long as possible, so it would stand to reason that delaying the trial from August to December would actually benefit them. But that's the thing. The reason that they oppose the December trial date is because they actually want a later trial date. That new date is too early. They're not objecting to vacating the August trial date. That part is fine. But they're objecting to the new date only being in December as opposed to some date way down the line in 2024. The way that Trump views this is that if by some miracle he can delay the trial until after the election, then his Hail Mary play is to win the election and then use the levers of government to evade accountability. Maybe he can get his own DOJ to stop his prosecution, given the fact that it would be a certainty that he would install an attorney general whose sole objective would be to protect him. Maybe he would argue something about the Office of Legal Counsel guidance against indicting a sitting president, even though that train has already left the station. Another possibility is that if the trial did happen before the presidential election and Trump won, he clearly wouldn't be able to carry out his duties as president, so the 25th Amendment would take effect, where the vice president becomes president, who could then ostensibly pardon Trump. In fact, this is a scenario that I discussed in this week's interview with Congressman Daniel Goldman. If by chance the DOJ's trial begins at the end of the year and Trump is convicted of prison time, for example, before the election, and then he did win the election, how would that impact his ability to serve as president?
Well, the interesting thing about it is that there's no bar to someone who is a convicted felon from running for president. So in theory, Donald Trump could run for president while he is in prison. He could become president while he is in prison. Obviously, he would be incapable of doing the job while he is in prison. So it would be it would have to be a foregone conclusion that the 25th Amendment would apply, and he would have to step aside and allow the vice president to become acting president for the duration of the time that he's in prison.
And then hope that that person would then just pardon him, and then yeah.
I mean, look, there's no question that if Donald Trump were elected president, he would undoubtedly immediately try to pardon himself, which would be litigated. And certainly there's a very good argument based on the concept that no person is above the law and you can't be a judge and jury in your own case, that Donald Trump should not be able to pardon himself. But this is, of course, unprecedented, so it's never been addressed.
And look, these are all just possibilities and certainly not likely, but just because they're unlikely doesn't mean they're not still options for Donald Trump. And what is already clear is that he'll cling on to anything to try to manifest the reality that he wants. That is precisely what he did on January 6th, even going so far as to incite an insurrection when it became clear that Mike Pence wouldn't subscribe to his insane legal theory that a vice president can unilaterally anoint the winner of the election. So to think that Trump won't try anything and everything, regardless of its legal viability, is just naive at this point. With that said, he will need a miracle of some sort given the evidence against him. Remember, most of the testimony against Trump in this trial comes from his own lawyers and even Trump himself. Trump attorney Evan Corcoran testified that Trump knowingly misled him about the location of the documents that were requested by law enforcement, which is now being leveraged by Jack Smith. And the only reason that Jack Smith has those notes and testimony is because a federal judge ruled that attorney-client privilege did not apply to their interactions because of the crime fraud exception, which is a provision that allows prosecutors to work work around attorney-client privilege if it becomes clear that a crime was being committed. So right there, we already have evidence of a crime thanks to Trump's own lawyer. And beyond that, there's an audio recording of Donald Trump himself saying, quote, in July 2021 at Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, during an audio recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and 2 members of his staff, none of whom possessed a security clearance, Trump showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told the individuals that the plan was highly confidential and secret. Trump also said, as president, I could have declassified it, and now I can't, but this is still a secret. So if there was any doubt about Trump's awareness that what he was doing was a crime, all you have to do is listen to Trump himself making it clear that he does. And of course, that's to say nothing of the facts surrounding this case that we've known for months, like the fact that Donald Trump stole classified documents from the White House, their return was requested, he ignored those requests, a lawful subpoena was issued, Trump defied it, Trump had his lawyer issue a false attestation claiming that the documents had been returned when they hadn't, and ultimately, a federal magistrate judge found grounds to issue a search warrant which, when executed by the FBI, turned up exactly what we believed to be missing. We know that Trump had boxes moved, we know about dress rehearsals preparing for the FBI's arrival, we know about Trump admitting that he was in possession of still classified documents and then sharing the contents of those classified documents with unauthorized personnel. So while it's certainly understandable that we may get bogged down in the minutiae of this case, when we take a step back, it is clear how devastating all of this is for Donald Trump. So at this point, we'll wait and see what Judge Cannon decides with regard to the proposed December 11, 2023 start date. The best case scenario at this point is that she grants Jack Smith's request and doesn't allow the defense to delay this trial as they'll try to do. Because that very jockeying to avoid accountability is precisely how Trump ended up in this situation in the first place. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to this channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.